Harvey Cox, theologian. Author of 10 books, including The Secular City, Cox has been teaching at Harvard Divinity School since 1965 and is the author of 10 books, including most recently When Jesus Came to Harvard, Making Moral Choices Today. He has written extensively on urbanization, world Christianity, Jewish-Christian relations, and contemporary spiritual movements. In this interview, Cox discusses the market economy in terms of its religious function, the ethics of market values, and how much is enough. Question. Karl Polanyi, whom you quote, says there will be a double movement whereby society will prevent the disembedding of the economy. Is Polanyi's thesis correct, or can the market triumph over social relations, making us all commodities? Harvey Cox. Briefly, Karl Polanyi's argument is that there have always been and always will be markets in every society, whether it is a little street vendor or a fair or a bazaar. However, in previous history, markets have been guided and checked by a range of other institutions, families, states, religious institutions, and customs. The markets have not been allowed to have the dominant role in forming the meanings or values of the society. What has happened in the last 150 years, he argues, is that the market has become the dominant institution of Western society, and now increasingly all around the world. The market controls not just economic life, let me underline that. The market affects not just economic life, it affects what we believe is important in life, what we are striving for, what we believe is wrong with us and the society, and what we are to do. In other words, the market is generating the values and meanings by which hundreds of millions of people are living. I am arguing that this is the function which in many societies in the past has been that of religion or that of God. The market is now God in that sense of the word. I think you're asking whether the battle is over. Is this a God who is never going to have any real contenders? I don't think so. I sense a growing restlessness on the part of many people with what the market values. The market values production, efficiency, competition, but the market does not have any value that it assigns to gentleness, to compassion, or to some of the things that we know from our own experiences are not only important, but vital to human life. I sense, especially among young people, a suspicion of the market. So much suspicion, for example, about television commercials that there is now a second wave of commercials trying to sell you things by using irony and self-caricature to build this suspicion into the commercial and disarm your criticism of it. Still, I do not think, in the long run, human nature being what it is, that this kind of cheapening and evisceration of human values can last forever. I certainly hope not. We are in a stage now in which the market is utterly dominant. There is hardly anything challenging it, and it is even assigned a kind of messianic role. If only the market could spread throughout all the world, then hunger would be gone, there would be democracy everywhere, there would be all these good things, and the market is the key to it all. But notice that in Christianity, Judaism, and some other religions, the Messiah has not come yet, or at least has not come back yet in Christianity, and has not come yet in Judaism, and you are advised to wait patiently for the benevolent outcome. Well, a lot of people have been waiting for quite a while in many parts of the world, and the situation is getting worse and not any better. So their confidence in this particular messianic figure of the worldwide market is being undermined. We are beginning to see and will see a larger backlash against it. I certainly hope so. Question. Could you elaborate on how you think the contest between the market and religion will play itself out? Also, what are the possible outcomes even after the conceivable backlash against the market system? Harvey Cox. I would not characterize it exactly as a contest between the market and religion, so let me reconfigure that a little bit. I am not suggesting that the market is God only as a metaphor. I am arguing that it functions in many parts of the world as a faith. Phenomenologically, it does what religions have most frequently done. It provides the stories, metaphors, symbols, rituals, myths, values, and meanings that religions have provided. It is functioning as a religion. So this is really a contest among religions. This is a battle of the gods. Furthermore, I do not think that I would let religions get off so easy. Religions have also surrendered to some extent to the market god. Just turn your television on late at night and see the marketing of religion that goes on, selling God's favors, selling the favors of a particular spiritual tradition. I am afraid that churches, synagogues, and other religious movements can very easily be co-opted into a market vision of the world. So-called mega churches are springing up all over the United States. Huge churches of 5,000 or 6,000 people, many of them based on market surveys. You go into the community and talk to people, largely those who are not going to church, and you ask them what they like and do not like about church. You organize focus groups, then you devise a sort of religious product that is going to meet the widest market niche, and you roll it out, and that is a mega church. We could also think about universities, which have begun to conceive of students as customers. There was a time in the university tradition, not so long ago, in which we were all colleagues, here as a learning community, learning together, listening to each other, and helping each other. More and more, the image that the university administrations are creating is this: we have a product that is education. We have a catalog, a sales force of recruiters, great colored brochures, and we also have customers who have come and pay for the product. But what this does is to diminish, even evacuate the human content of the relationship of teacher to student, of student to student, of an intellectual community. It makes it something cheaper. I strongly dislike that invasion into the university of the marketing mentality. Back to your question. I do not want you to think that I am suggesting a battle between bad market and nice religion. I think we need a market. The market is an essential institution in any culture or society. What I am criticizing here is the escalation of the market to the predominant meaning and value-creating institution of the whole society, the market as God. And I do not want religion to get off as easy as the phrases of your question implied. Question. You wrote that you did not think that this new religion of the market would inspire the international traditional religions to lead a new jihad or crusade. How have your opinions changed in light of September 11th and the response to it? Harvey Cox. At the moment I wrote that, I was hoping, frankly, for a tiny little crusade, for a modest jihad against the market religion by the traditional religions. I will come clean on that. I was hoping for a somewhat more confrontational attitude toward market values and the market god on the part of existing religious institutions, where I find confrontation or critique sadly lacking. By and large, religious institutions are just going along with this juggernaut and not raising questions about how it debases human life and human values. Now, once in a while, a little mini crusade breaks out. For example, not too many years ago, a market developed around the world in human organs. If you happened to be a rich person from the Western world and you needed an organ, say a kidney transplant, it could be arranged. You could fly to India or Turkey or some other places and purchase a kidney for a modest price of several $1,000s. The kidney would be taken from a poor person, usually a woman, who would be given a modest sum of money and told that she would be fine with just one kidney. And the market began to grow. At that point, some people began to say, wait a minute, is there anything in the world, anything at all, that should be excluded from the category of commodity? I remember a couple of years ago teaching a course with Professor Alan Dershowitz and the late Stephen Jay Gould, in which we talked about this very subject, the sale and purchase of human organs. To my considerable surprise, when we asked the students how many of them thought it was perfectly okay, almost half of them said yes. They argued that if people are poor and they want to make some money and they want to sell their kidney, let them sell it. They have a perfect right to do so. For me, this position completely overlooked the enormous asymmetry in power between the people buying the kidney and those selling them. This was one instance in which the various religious communities of the world, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, said, here we have to say no. The human body created in the image of God is not to be put on sale. That is not something we buy and sell. There are limits. Now, I think we have to start drawing some other limits pretty soon. Who owns the sky? There was a movement a few years ago to put advertisements on satellites in the skies so that we could see them blinking, I suppose for many, many years. That may mean transforming the sky into a commodity. No one then could look up into the sky on a starry night without seeing an advertisement for such and such a product. Think about it. I would like us to begin to compile a list of things that we would like to see excluded, if not by law, then at least by moral consensus, from the things that are for sale in the world. Start with that. Religious communities of the world can help with that question. What is valuable? What has value in life beyond what you have in a purchase and sale agreement? Question. In addition to stating that people are treating the market as God, you also mentioned that the market, like other religions, is not subject to empirical proof. How would you respond to the criticism that people do not view the market as a religion, but as a scientifically proved theory? Could it be that, like evolution is a scientifically proven theory, people are just changing their minds about how the world really does work? Harvey Cox. That is a perfectly legitimate question. There are, however, many people in the world who have deep reservations about whether the market theory of how one organizes economies is in fact proven as the best theory for everybody. The people who have those doubts tend to be those who have not benefited from the global spread of the market economy, but in fact have experienced in the last 20 or 30 years a widening gap between the concentration of wealth on the part of those who have and less on the part of those who don't have. It is interesting to me how those who profit from the market economy tend to believe it is something that is self-evident. Those who do not profit from it are the ones who have questions about it. There is an interesting epistemological question. How does that happen? How do you have that discussion? Consider Brazil. Brazil is the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, the largest country in Latin America, and a country that has been described by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank as their laboratory for how successful a market system would be. But now, nearly everyone agrees that in Brazil, this strategy has been a miserable and complete failure. Brazil has the widest disparity between rich and poor of any country in Latin America and the 3rd largest of anywhere in the world. So now Brazil is trying a different strategy. For some people, that suggests that the proof is not quite in yet that the market economy is the solution to the whole business. At least millions and millions of Brazilians feel that that is still an open question. They want to try something else rather than the market road to prosperity, success, and fulfillment. Let me underline that. I do not want to be understood as saying that there should be no markets in the world. I am talking about the overemphasis, the over-expectation, the overselling of the idea of the market economy as the elixir that will cure everything, as the God we can count on. The other reason I struck on the idea of God is that I remember being told when I was a kid that you may not see what God is doing now. It may look bad or wrong, but if you wait long enough, farther along, you will understand. You trust the providential hand, as it were, even though the evidence may go the other way. It requires an act of faith. It says in Hebrews 11, quote, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen yet," end quote. We're often asked to have that kind of confidence in the market. I think especially of the people who sell stocks. Well, the stock market is down this week, but it will go up again. Believe me, it will go up again. Why should I believe you that it's going to go up again? Maybe it's going to keep going down. Well, in the past, it has gone up and down. Inevitability is not a very good argument. Here's what I'm saying. The question you raised about the contending ways of dealing with hunger, famine, unemployment, illness, and homelessness among enormous numbers of people around the world is certainly not solved yet. Regarding salvation through the religion of the market God, I am a skeptic. If you're going to ask me if I am a believer, this is one God I just do not believe in. I am pretty close to being an atheist about the God of the market. But let's say for the moment that I am a pretty strong agnostic. I think the burden of proof has to be on the other side that it is really the solution. Question. To what extent do we see the beginnings of a global civil religion? Some set of symbols and rituals that would unite people across the globe, regardless of religious differences or nation-state differences. One might think of Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, or the Dalai Lama as the secular saints of such a possibly emerging global civil religion. Could such a global civil religion be a counterweight to the religion of the market? Harvey Cox. I think at least Gandhi and the Dalai Lama would be a little surprised to hear you characterize them as secular saints. Certainly not. What is important to me about these two enormously significant figures in our history is that they are indeed rooted in a particular religious tradition. Gandhi lived and died a Hindu, but always said that it was Jesus' Sermon on the Mount that was the most important source of his life and his philosophy. As a Buddhist, of course, the Dalai Lama incarnates or embodies another whole view about what the good life is about. Being a Christian, I think we are at a moment in religious history in which we have an enormous amount to learn from traditions other than our own. In this case, the Hindu tradition and the Buddhist tradition. And we have the opportunity. I think especially of Buddhism, which is the tradition of the Dalai Lama. Some years ago, I spent some time in Japan studying Asian religious movements and especially Buddhism, which is the great temple city south of Tokyo, and I noticed there in front of one of the temples a statue of the founder of one of the Buddhist movements. It struck me that he looked rather like St. Francis. He was wearing a ragged robe with a rope around his waist. He wore sandals and he carried a walking stick. So I asked my companion, who spoke Japanese, to read the inscription on the base of the statue, which said, quote, "If there is one thing that I have learned in life, it is how much is enough." End quote. I thought that was what the whole trip to Japan. If you can learn during your lifetime how much is enough, you have really learned something very important, something that the market god is never going to teach you. The gospel of the market god is that you never have enough. You need more. The whole logic of the religion of the market is based on accumulation, growth, and expansion. But there is wisdom in some of the other traditions, that of St. Francis or Buddhist teachers or Hindu saints, that we desperately need as a kind of counteraction to the ethic of the market god.